I think audiences are going to think that I made him up because they're so outlandish some of the things he had to overcome. But that's one of the things that makes for a good movie and a good story.
He's associated with a lot of films, The Fighting Preacher, and it's several other titles. And now he's back with another film. It's called Raise the Bar, the Alma Richards story. I'm here with director T.C. Christensen. T.C., good catching up with you again.
I know I like to talk to you, Rhett, and I like to talk about movies.
This story, last time we talked, you were getting ready for the release of Escape from Germany. But at the end of our conversation, you briefly mentioned this one was in the works.
Mhm.
How long have you been working on this film?
Man, this one has been forever. We actually shot this a year before we shot Escape from Germany. I've been working on this film for about 4 years. This one had delays with COVID, and then also we ended up having to do a whole bunch of visual effects, which we try not to do, but we ended up doing that, and it just took, years.
Paul Rutherich returns. I know he was the leading role in your last film, and he returns for the leading role in this film. But let's introduce people to this character and this story a little bit. Alma Richards, he was an Olympian back in the early 1900s, from what I understand. You want to just tell us
1912.
who he was?
Yeah, Alma was a young boy living in Parowan, Utah. That's way down by Cedar City in the south part of the state, and didn't know what he wanted to do for his life, like most young kids and most of us. He went to high school one day, and there's a new sport there called track, and they have a new coach, and the coach says, "Hey, you're big." He was a big kid, and the coach said, "Why don't you come out for track?" Alma didn't even know what he's talking about. It wasn't in his, sphere. But he went out for track, and 2 years later is all it took, and Alma found himself on the greatest athletic stage in the world at the Olympics in Stockholm, Sweden, in the high jump.
He got his athletic ability from what I read that he used to jump fences when he would hunt for jackrabbits.
He's a farm boy. Yeah, he'd jump fences, he'd chase jackrabbits, see if he could catch one. He never said if he actually did. I doubt it. If you ever been around jackrabbits, I can't imagine a kid catching one unless it was sick. But yeah, he just was like homegrown on the farm kind of a boy that developed athleticism from his farm work.
I'm curious, what did you see in Paul that made you want to cast him for this part?
Well, Paul Wuthridge is a terrific uh, choice for several reasons. This was a hard part to cast because this guy playing Alma, whoever it is, has got to be not only an actor, a good actor, he's got to be athletic and be able to fit into our parameters, which means I can't fly in somebody from Hollywood or New York and pay them a lot. That has to be somebody that's kind of our local gang. And Paul is just terrific. This is now the fourth film I've done with him, second in the leading role. And he just does a terrific job. And in the early screenings we're having, people love him and girls love him because he really is it's hard to believe he's better looking than me, but maybe just a little bit he is.
This story, from what I understand, it's a bit of a personal story. You are distantly related to the character in this film. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I've known about Alma my whole life because when I was raised in Layton, which was um, a long time ago, that my folks had 10 kids. But besides the 10 kids, our grandma lived with us. And our grandma was from Parowan. And she knew all about Alma, and she would tell us about him and his exploits and what a great athlete he was. And the reason she knew so much about him wasn't just because they were from the same town. My grandmother is Alma's sister. So Alma is my great uncle. I want to make sure your audiences know I didn't make this just oh, here's a family movie to make. It's a really amazing story, and I've wanted to make it for a long time.
This character, hearing stories about him, kind of made you and your brothers want to be athletes when you were growing up.
Oh, for sure. We all learned to love track and try to do all kinds of athletics. And what better than to have somebody in your family who has attained the height of an Olympic gold medal? That's pretty good. None of us were that extraordinary, but we all enjoyed it, and it was a good part of our growing up.
This film kind of explores themes of, and this is kind of a David and Goliath type story. So this character, I take it, faces some insurmountable odds that he has to deal with and overcome.
You know, I think audiences are going to think that I made them up because they're so outlandish some of the things he had to overcome. But that's one of the things that makes for a good movie and a good story is when the protagonist has all of these obstacles that come up in front of them to keep them from their goal, and they somehow overcome them. And yeah, you got to tell me when you see it. You'll think, oh, come on. They made that up. That wouldn't have really happened. It did. It really happened.
I started watching it last night and I'm excited to finish the film. But so it opened last weekend in Utah, and then it's going to
No,
be, is that right?
no.
Do I have that right?
It opens tomorrow.
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
If this is, yeah, to the 24th in the Utah markets.
And then it will open here in Idaho on May 2nd.
Yeah, a week or so later.
Any kind of premiere event planned for Idaho at all?
Yeah, I'm coming up. I'm going to be there and go to some screenings. I'm going to speak at BYU Idaho and do a little dance for them, and then we'll be going around to different theaters and speaking and doing question and answer after some of the screenings.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. This film, like you said, it's been several years in the making. For you, what has been the most rewarding part of bringing this story to the screen?
Well, I think it's a universal, it has universal appeal. It tells about protagonists that we can all relate to. We all have some of the same struggles. One of them being Alma doesn't know as a youth what he wants to do, what his purpose in life is, and what's his calling, and what's going on there. Well, that's universal. That's all of us. And then the way that he fights against the obstacles and overcomes is a terrific part I wanted to tell. And then you'll see at the end of the film, there's a bit of a twist because you'll think that his purpose in life is X, it's this, what we keep talking about. And then there's a twist at the end, and it's not. He finds an even higher purpose in life, which I just think that's a great story for any of us.
So again, it comes out tomorrow, which would be April 24th in Utah, and then here in Eastern Idaho on May 2nd.
Mhm.
Um, TC, always good to talk to you. Anything
Mhm.
else you want to add about this film project?
Yeah, I do want to I like to say to kind of give just a parameter so you realize kind of what a big deal this was for Alma to get to the Olympics and win. That was in 1912, and I just realized from a sports writer telling me the other day, there wasn't another person from out here in the West that won a gold medal in the Olympics for 88 years after him. So it isn't like a thing, oh, like now, I don't know, we seem to have so many great Olympians around all the time. It wasn't the case. This was really a spectacular moment in his life and really for all of us out here in the West.